Hello, everybody. Welcome to the session, The Path to Succeed in the Data Science Space. So let me quickly brief you about Vishal. Vishal has done his engineering from Delhi Institute of Technology and went on to the University of Texas to do his master's in computer science. He was working with Microsoft for around 11 years as a principal security lead. And then in 2013, he founded Right Relevance. And Vishal, could you please let us know a bit more about yourself so that,
So being big into technology right from the get-go, right? Engineering, masters, working at Microsoft, and now running my own company. And I think that's what looks like I'm going to be working on for the next 20 years. And things are changing at such a fast rate that however much you put your time into it, it's less. The rate of change hasn't stopped. So for me, it doesn't look like anything is going to slow down for the next 20 years too.
Okay. So I'll tell the audience that please wait with regards to your questions. We'll take the questions once our discussion is over. So to begin with the questions that I have for Vishal. So Vishal, will you please tell us, after spending so much time with Microsoft, almost a decade, what inspired you to make the move to start your own company, and especially in this space, the data science space, where machine learning and artificial intelligence works?
Right. So as you said, data, especially extracting information from data, has always been very close to my heart. Even when I studied my master's at the University of Texas, we were the first students for Joydeep Ghosh and Inderjeet Dhillon who launched the data mining and large-scale data mining courses at the university. And when I transitioned to Microsoft, it took a backseat because there wasn't really that much data available in early 2000s, right? There weren't really the tools we have now. So my focus was mostly on kernels, system security. But the last 4 years, as I started working for Office 365 and Azure, we suddenly got access to data at fairly large scale again. And that's where I coined the term data security as a data problem. So I spent most of those 4 years looking at large streams of structured and unstructured data to analyze and find security issues like login anomalies in Office 365, forensics, intrusion detection. So I say it wasn't as much a transition as it was almost like doing the things I really care about the most. So it was pretty natural to go and do this again.
Mm-hmm. So what is your passion for solving data-centric problems? Mm-hmm. It is, your colleagues say that it was well known, and when did you realize that, data was your passion, and when did you decide that this was it?
So I've been a voracious reader all my life. I know that's maybe not equivalent to data, but if you look at technology, it actually comes down to data. I go online and read maybe 50 articles a day. So I've always been hungry for data, and again, more for analyzing data. I've been a very analytical person. You look at a situation, people taking the pictures and the colors, and I never noticed the color of the shoe. For me, it's all about the information. What is the information? That's all this thing about. So it's always been very, very close to my heart. So when this opportunity came with a very close friend of mine, and he said, we've been thinking about doing it for a long, long time. Then the opportunity presented itself. The time was right. We were able to, it looked like we would be able to raise money. I said, okay, let's go and do it. It's like going back to my roots. There's nothing, it's very natural, as I said. It's going back to my roots and looking at data from a technology aspect and not just a personal aspect.
So, talking about the problems that you solve at Right Relevance, mm-hmm. What are the main things that you're working on, and how difficult was it for you to get up with the concept of right relevance and make it workable?
So one of the best parts of doing this, it was a very personal problem we were looking to solve, especially I, as I said, love reading. And if you go back 5 years, 10 years, or whatever, there really wasn't any, I wanted to read about behavioral science. There was no way to go somewhere and say behavioral science and get me the best content. Yeah. It just didn't exist. What people used to do at night, the same thing is save links to favorites, note down websites you should visit, kind of go to people. And Twitter was getting to be big, but it still wasn't. And it's really hard to find anything on Twitter anywhere right now. So for me, it was about how do I get to the best data for topics? How do I get the most relevant information for topics? And data is And the reason the problem has been really hard is data is growing at a phenomenal geometric rate, right? Also, the tools, the systems and machines, like power is increasing. These processing systems are growing at a very rapid rate too. You can probably store and analyze humongous amounts of data now that you couldn't do even 3-4 years back. But the rate at which unstructured data and noise is increasing is even faster. So the problem has become actually harder than it used to be. There used to be less systems, but far less data. There's way better systems, but way more data, so the problem has become hard. And that's why even after doing this for 5 years now, it's been almost 5 years I've been doing this, I feel tons needs to be done. So that's why this is the hardest problem I've ever dealt with. It started out thinking, we can do it, but it hasn't been solved. We have made good progress, but I see us doing it for another 5 years.
Right. So this was about right relevance and your passion and your forte. So let's talk about the business side of it. More and more business, as everybody knows, is using business intelligence tools. So could you enlighten us a bit about the advantages that it will have for the business? Investing in business intelligence is means quite a lot. So how do you rate this?
So I'm assuming everybody has heard the term data is the new oil, right? It really has meaning. I think every business has realized, and if not, they better do, that the difference between extinction and survival/growth is now your ability to analyze the information you have and actually get some intelligence from it. So those are extremely powerful motives for businesses to invest in business intelligence and understanding. They're sitting, almost all businesses, especially the traditional, whether it's retail or logistics or insurance or banking, they're all sitting on tremendous amounts of data. And now that they know that an Amazon can come and disrupt the business, right? A new fintech company can come and disrupt the entire business. They're extremely powerful motives. We look at just Amazon and Netflix and Spotify, they've changed the entertainment space by just recommendations based on data. So I think the motivation is now there. So businesses are going to invest in this. They're going to just keep increasing the investment in this. I don't see that changing.
As you said, data is the new oil, but data is the biggest challenge that businesses face these days.
Right.
So what do you say, think about the biggest challenge? What is the biggest challenge that is faced by businesses, in managing the data that they have?
So the first one they usually face, especially traditional companies, is the initial inertia, right? It's an investment, and nobody really wants to change things unless they have to. But the good news in that one is, I think that barrier is already crossed. Everybody's realized there's no way to survive without having to do this. The second biggest problem companies are facing is they're getting so much data, they're overwhelmed. And not only so much data, so much unstructured data that you would think that there's more data they can analyze it, but the signal to noise ratio is actually becoming less. Because systems are increasing, but data's growth has made the signal to noise ratio even smaller. So that's a humongous challenge. But the third one, I think this is probably the biggest one for them, is finding the right people. The tools exist, the machines exist, the systems exist, but finding the right people to put this together and look at the data and actually build the solutions they need to understand the data and apply to their business problems. That is probably the biggest gap. Means you go to anybody and say, hey, we have the data, we know how to, we're willing to put money in this, but we can't find the right people. I mean, digital Vidya itself has this problem. I mean, we do for sure all the time.
So coming back to right relevance, so what is the space? How do you define the space that right relevance operates in? Is it data science, big data, artificial intelligence? How do they, come together? How do you?
So I'd say we are the intersection of all of these, is because big data, we process large streams of unstructured data, especially streaming unstructured data. That's our specialty, right? Think of news and media. P means we need data science at scale, right? Machine learning and AI to make sense, NLP to make sense of this data, because we're looking at the relevance problem at this scale. So we kind of sit at the intersection of all of these, and it's kind of like Twitter and Facebook. Also, we're a media company in some ways, like digital news, because we are kind of news. Our consumer product has become a news, and our enterprise product has become a content curation site. So we are actually sitting at the intersection of quite a few things together.
So that was quite interesting. And finally, with regards to this subject, what are the the trends and innovations that you're following personally in basic data and analytics? And can you please brief us why exactly do they excite you? Because there's a lot going out in the space, but what especially?
So personally, I'm absolutely fascinated with deep learning, especially the new unsupervised neural network space and their potential applications to very hard real world problems, right? Like medical diagnosis, like space research, looking for extraterrestrial life, because you can imagine the amount of data that we get from space. Looking, solving, these are very real problems. And the reason I'm super excited about deep learning and unsupervised is, I don't know how many of you know about the Alphago program. So Google acquired this company, DeepMind, which wrote this Alphago program that within that they use tremendous amounts of Go data. This is a game called Go. So they trained this game. Chess was beaten a long time back, so it's not even a problem anymore. Go is an unbounded problem. They actually trained this system to beat all the world's top players. Right? They had a championship. Chess was done 20 years ago. Nobody thought this would happen, but that happened. But then an extremely interesting thing happened within 6 months of it. They created a new program called Alphago Zero. Alphago Zero was not trained on any program, on any data.
Okay.
It was purely, it played against itself. And in 3 days, it played so many games, it just knew the basic rules of the game. It beat Alphago, which had beaten the world's champion, 100-0. So Alphago Zero played Alphago 100 times and beat that Alphago at 100-0. This is, I think, a breakthrough, right? Because no data, and you just give it the rules of the game, and you so just think about it. Right? I don't think there's anything bigger right now. And like I said, this can be applied to real world problems. I know my friends at Amazon, they're actually using the same technology to train their warehouse robots to tackle, obstacles on the way if they drop something. So how do they, basically they want to make their entire warehouse completely automated. And they're using, it's similar to self-driven cars, they're autonomous vehicles. They're also using now deep learning, especially unsupervised, to understand the space instead of just feeding it billions of pictures, which is how they started off. So that is still going on, but they're training things to think almost in that way. Even poker, which is a game which you would think is of strategy and deception, actually there's a program which just beat humans at poker at the World Series and made $1.7 million more than humans. I don't think there's anything bigger to think about in that way, right?
Right.
Something like this, beating humans in real world situations.
This is really incredible.
Yeah, absolutely fascinating.
So, at Right Relevance, do you work with interns or talent? Do you hire? And what is the most important thing that you consider while you're hiring anybody for your team?
Yeah, so as you know, we're sitting on terabytes of data. Obviously, we can't. Our engineering team, which is focused on when you build a production system and you run a production system, you have problems every day, right? And I have a small engineering team which focuses on those problems while we keep building new systems. But there's a lot of research problems we have, things we want to do to go to the next level almost, that sometimes the engineering team just can't solve. They just don't have the time cycles because a server is down, a machine needs to reboot, this machine needs to be updated, that software is updated. Now we have a regression. Somebody needs to keep solving this one. So we try to have at least 2 interns in-house who can take a look at some of these harder problems, especially research-like problems where we know there's a data set we have that we would like to use, but we are simply not able to touch. So for us, it's critical to keep at least 2 interns on our payroll at pretty much all time throughout the year. And when I hire, so it's both, right? My full-time engineering and interns. And by the way, we mostly convert our interns to full-time.
All right.
So, it makes sense, right? They're doing well. You don't do stuff.
Yeah, and
as I said, the talent is the one.
You're the one who has trained them, so they know.
That too. It's like you don't want to lose it. So the thing when I look is, it's hard to interview people, right? It's hard. Interviews have always been hard. Even in Microsoft, I used to interview literally tens of people a year at least. We've hired hundreds of them. And we always knew interview was hard, right? Somebody in an hour can only do so much. So I look more for sometimes things like self-driven people. And it's become obvious by the way you are, the ability to be independent, the ability to have strong analytical skills. So there's questions that you can actually ask, right? And also their interest in this, right? If you're not really interested in data, if it doesn't naturally appeal to you, doing it as a job might become too boring. There is too much data, and sometimes it's just engineering. You're just going through data, cleaning the data to actually apply it to an algorithm. Remember, there's a garbage in, garbage out problem. If you give garbage to algorithms, they give you garbage as answers. So training them to think through, right? So you need those analytical skills to think, okay, I cannot just use this. We need to do work on this. So I look for those things: drive, independence of thinking, strong analytical skills, and understanding. We do need people who understand some of the tools like Python and Keras and now the deep learning libraries. So we spend our time making sure. So we spend our time with the interns on that.
A lot of people that are online now are data science aspirants. So what is the basic advice that you would like to give them? And the most important one as well.
Most important one. That would be a hard one. I think it probably changes, but there's some things you said basics which are pretty much the same almost any job you do, anything you do in life, and there's some things which are specialized to this particular job, right? So the things that are generic is easy, right? Your grandma would say, work hard. There's really very little substitute to that advice. Then this space is very few spaces have changed. Actually, nothing has changed at the rate at which technology has been changing and continues to change. The rate of change hasn't slowed down yet, which means you need to stay updated with what's going on. So it's very, very important to stay updated, keep yourself in touch. You just learn it once doesn't solve it. You need to look at, means R used to be big, it's right now taking a bit of a backseat because of deep learning. Because right now, but they're solving the problem. All the deep learning libraries are being ported to R2, but since they're in Python right now, there's a lot more work going on in Python. So keep yourself updated. Also, get the basics right. So start with your basics being right from the get-go, right? Don't jump and just try to solve problems. Take a step back, understand what the basics are, learn your basics, whether it's about the language you're going to use, the tooling that you're going to use, libraries you're going to use, or the data. All of these things, just make sure you have the basics right. And then it's all about applying all this, right? Hard work, your latest knowledge, and your basics to what I believe is solving real-world problems. This is one of the biggest things that nobody tells you. Everybody comes to college and they have done this and that, but none of it really applies to real-world problems, right? They don't understand that the data cannot be used. You cannot apply algorithms that you have right now to data at this scale because the box will just blow up. So you have to think through techniques. So try and solve as many real-world problems as you can. Look at things like Kaggle, which didn't even exist, right? If you look at, none of this existed 3-4 years back. But now you actually have access to a lot of really good tools and data for free. Even Right Relevance, right? If you want to keep yourself updated, type the topic data science and machine learning and Right Relevance and save a fee for yourself. Great way to stay updated with the latest.
Sure. So now coming to the hard question, you are an advisor at Digital Vidya, and how do you see the work that we're doing and in helping data science aspirants in particular and at the industry as a whole? How do you rate us?
So I would not speak on the industry because I don't understand it as well as Kapil does. Kapil, after the co-founder and CEO. So I'll let him answer the industry question. I'm not an expert at the online education industry in India, but him and I started discussing this in spring of 2016, if memory serves me right. So it's been almost 2 years when Kapil and I first started talking about doing this. And when we were crystal clear about one thing, right? Build something that provides real value to the students. I have seen too many courses out there, and I'm not going to say who's and what, but they've seen, whether it's in US, India, where they're just trying to do a job, and that's it, right? It's a course, get it done. But so the number one goal for him and I was always to produce something of real value. It has to be the highest quality course, not purely from the theory perspective, because that's an easy problem to solve right now, from an application point of view, right?
Right.
And it's not an easy thing to solve this. This is not an easy thing to do. And I give credits to Kapil that he has stuck to his guns to try and produce that thing. We're still not there, by the way. I look at the scores too. We're not there, but at least an honest attempt is being made to get to that point. And the feedback from students would be extremely important, right? They are the year eventually they're your deciders whether this is good or not. So as long as the feedback stays good, we keep making progress towards that goal and keep proving it, I'm pretty happy. Right? But there's a lot of work to be done still.
Yeah, some part of that goes back to you because you are the course advisor.
Yeah, I mean, so like right now I'm working with us, right, to say now deep learning has become really huge. We need to bring it to our course. We need to bring it in a way, we need to distill it that people can understand their basics about deep learning, right? Right? They don't, and it doesn't overwhelm them, and they know how they can really apply this to real problems. Because right now when I talk to college students, very smart ones, and they talk about deep learning and they're trying to solve it, image recognition and all this, great. But how does it apply to an insurance industry? Right? Who's looking for people to solve really complex problems? And we know how. So building those problem sets and giving. So that's why I'm positive that since the thinking is right, we are going to the right place and we'll continue being at the right place, making progress there.
Yeah, sure.
That's the whole process.
Yeah, sure. We hope that we reach there. So that was the end of questions that I had in mind. Now we'll open the floor of questions from the audience. And the first question that we have is from Dipesh, and he says that he's a marketer.
Okay.
He says that, Vishal, what's your thought on using data for marketing? Can you share some interesting examples or case studies, either at Right Relevance or some other organization, where data-driven decision has contributed to business?
So we have used data really, really effectively for marketing. I know, since I am, firstly, disclaimer, I am really, really poor at marketing. I don't really understand marketing. I should probably take the digital media marketing course. But Right Relevance started from nothing, right? And we didn't know how to bring users to us. So what we did is we started, since we became experts at technological, like topical relevant information, and we know on Twitter who all is interested in what topics because of our analysis. What we did is we created topical accounts on Twitter. We created approximately 900 topical accounts on Twitter. One of them I just showed you earlier, right? Yeah. Machine learning. And we started posting relevant content to these, right? And we knew who are the people who are interested in this data. So within 2 years, from zero, we built 3.5 million followers.
It's massive.
Right? We were hitting, a couple one day came to me and is like, what the hell? There's 750,000 visits to your sites every month. How did that happen? And this was literally the first year. So we were actually able to go from nothing, use our data, our relevance, our ability to understand what users want, to apply to a purely marketing, which we didn't think of it as marketing at that point of time. To get it, even that is our biggest source of traffic even now. Even now we get all the traffic we get is from 85% of the traffic we get, 80-85% is from Twitter, from those accounts. The page, I hope it answers this question.
Yeah, I do hope so. So Sanjeev has a question for you, which he says, which data visualization tool do you think can consume structured DW for awesome data visualization experience to clients from any industry?
So we use Tableau pretty aggressively, right? But I'm not sure between structured and unstructured, because when you have analysis is almost always structured, right? And you're trying to show analysis to people. So analysis brings structure, whether it's a structured data or unstructured data. So the analysis can be charts, can be graphs, can be tables. So we have used Tableau pretty extensively for our own selves, for our insights technology. I've also worked with customers who use Power BI, right? Microsoft's Power BI. And then even like SQL reporting and Oracle reporting tools are pretty good, because remember, it's not always about big data. I know there's this misnomer that's big data. We work on big data for sure, but many of these people don't really have big data at the web scale, right? Because when you talk about a Facebook or a Google or a Twitter or a LinkedIn, you're really not, or an Amazon, you're talking about a new breed who really have data at an unfathomable, you can't imagine the amount of data. But vast majority of industries, whether it's logistics, insurance and all, still have data that can be handled by your traditional systems. So even their tools, even like their visualization tools are pretty good. But if you're not working with traditional systems and you want to show it on the web, I'd say go for Power BI or Tableau.
All right.
I hope that answers.
I hope so. So Damodar Polani has a question. How do you cope up with being a fresher in the data analytics space as a freelancer? I do have 8+ years of experience in SQL, the server, and DBA.
Well, if you understand SQL, that is, I think, already a pretty big step forward. Because if you look at, let's just take tooling, right? So the two parts I'll answer. A, how do you stay? I'd say that your grandma's advice on hard work is not substitutable, right? You can't substitute. There's no substitute for that. But assuming you have that, it's still overwhelming, right? It's very scary to come into this big data. But the beautiful thing is, even Hadoop, Hive is nothing but a SQL system. You can actually, if you know SQL, can put a file in HDFS, which could be terabytes big, spin up a Hive query, and query just using your SQL skills. Neo4j, which is a new graph database. Again, you can put terabytes of data in there, but the Cypher language is actually just purely SQL. Right? My business analyst who actually worked with the insights report was not a programmer. He's big into data. He's been doing data for 20, 25 years as a DBA, business intelligence, business analysis guy. But he was not a programmer. But he was able to use our data and build Tableau visual graphs, beautiful ones. Carefree Tableau, and none of those really needed any programming skills. So it's not that you need to have hardcore programming skills to solve basic problems, but yes, the problem becomes more complex. Which is why you need Python and all this. Most data you have is not clean. Right? So the cleaning of the data, and yes, most of these traditional tools won't do machine learning or look for patterns in data. So some of those things you do need to have the basics of how to do data analysis using a programmatic methodology. But if you know SQL, I think the jump is not as big, because I actually was able to get my business intelligence guy to learn Python in the end, and because we couldn't really do without it, right? Some of the early work was good. So I say don't be scared, work hard, apply your existing knowledge to things like Hive and Cypher, and pick up skills which take you from being a SQL only to more like how do you program basic scripting to ingest and analyze data, and then be able to use your skills, put the data in some DB, and then use your SQL skills to visualize it.
All right. Sanjeev says, dear Vishal, which is your core domain of expertise about which you can share your experience with us?
I'm assuming the context is data, right? So because my initial expertise, if you look at it for a decade, almost 9 years, I almost, not 11 years actually myself, I mostly worked in security. Though the last 4 years I was doing security with data, but it was primarily applied to the security problem. Now, for the 4 years that I've been working at Right Relevance, it's a very good question. I would say my biggest expertise is actually understanding data, putting structure to data, like understanding what I'm dealing with, cleaning that data, putting structure around that data, and making that data understandable by machine learning systems, right? So I'm actually not as big a machine learning expert, I would say. I know I'm picking up deep learning because I'm really passionate about that. But because I'm not building machine learning algorithms, right? I'm not building a new neural network algorithm. I'm applying what is there, existing machine learning algorithms. But maybe this is my 11 years of expertise in Microsoft. We're very, very strong in garbage in, garbage out, right? It's one of my basics, one of my basics of engineering. Make sure you're not pumping garbage into your systems, right? Machine learning systems or any. I think my biggest expertise is there. Understanding data, cleaning, parsing data, putting structure on that data that we can actually then ingest it and get what we want analysis.
Right. Deepak has a question. He says, hello, sir. I am a fresher. I have done some courses in R, and what should be my way to success in the data science space?
And generic question, huh? Generic questions, take it with a grain of salt. I think some of this we answered earlier. Get your basics. Firstly, be sure what is that you're looking to do, right? I'm assuming you're trying to become a data analyst and using R. We use R extensively. All our insights reporting is actually based on R and iGraph. So we use R extensively with Neo. So what you already know seems to be pretty important. So then getting the basics right, make sure you understand R well enough, basics, you understand the data, and then try and find problems which are real world problems from here, right? And like I said, use Kaggle. That's one place I know which does dump quite a few real world things in there and solve those real world problems on your own, right? But keep getting your basics and keeping yourself updated, which is get your basics right, stay updated because things are changing really, really, really fast. And then keep solving practical real world problems, right? Those alone, I think, would be able to put you, and means for, when you need to go and find jobs, do some networking, go and talk to people. Something I'm really bad at.
Sure. So, Saeed Ahmed says that he's a BSc Computer Science graduate. And what's your advice for him in terms of what career path should he take?
So, very generic question, right? Again, that depends on what you're passionate about. If you're passionate about deep learning, I can tell you, self-driving cars are there. All these.
So he has made some additions to the question. He says, "How can I get into data science? What are the initial steps that I need to take?" And he's good with Python. He says.
Well, if you're good with Python, then get to a place which can teach you how to apply Python to solving real-world problems. Right? There is no substitute. I know you must have done Python in college, and I see there's always exceptions. But the vast majority of students I meet, people I talk to, have really solved academic problems. They don't really care about their data. So they feed in garbage and they get out garbage from it. So solve real world problems because there you have to be conscious about what you're doing. What are you trying to do? Right? It's not just about code, algorithms, right, and programming. It's about understanding your problems. And so that will really make you from somebody who's if you've done a BSc in computer science, you're already pretty smart. I'm assuming. You know Python, so you already have the basic tools. But how do you use this intelligence and this skill to solve problems for people? Right? That's what you would get hired for. Really hired and kept for. So find real world problems and apply your knowledge and intelligence to that. That'll give you the real experience, right? To go out in the world and be successful. And find your passion before that.
So that's the list of questions that I had received from their side. And if you have any other questions, I'm referring to the audience. If you have any other questions, you can email us and we'll try to get back to all of them and try to involve Vishal in answering them. And emailing is easy. So I believe other NGOs would also have data which
true.
So I believe that let's close the session, and I hope everybody enjoyed it. So this is wishing you a goodbye from my side and from Vishal's side.
Thank you.
Vishal, it was wonderful having you here, and it was really good to talk to you.
Thanks.